Well folks, today's my birthday! And thank God I'm talking about Shaun the Sheep. If I were to talk about any of this today, then I would have just disintegrated into non-existence. Now some of you may be thinking, well, it's about time you covered something made by Aardman, Dan. And you're right, this is another episode I've been looking forward to making. I would have covered Chicken Run in this episode if Chicken Run 2 had been released sooner. But since we're talking about Shaun's escapades on the big screen, I can finally see whether I feel like swallowing my phone by the end of this video. So let's get down to business. Just like episodes 4, 7, and even last month's episode, it is absolutely impossible to talk about my history with the movies without bringing up my history with the show first. So I've liked Shaun the Sheep since a pretty young age. I have very fond memories of coming home after school to watch some of Shaun's antics on CBBC, so much so that of course I was hyped when I saw a teaser trailer for the movie. I was so excited to see it throughout most of 2015, and when I eventually saw it at View, I was not disappointed at all. As I got older though, my interest in watching Shaun the Sheep eventually faded away. And when I saw a teaser for Farmageddon, I wasn't as hyped as I was back in 2015. I just thought, oh, they're making another one? Cool. I never thought about it again. Until a day out in Peterborough, when I saw posters for the movie everywhere. At the train station, in shopping centres, on buses, in Subway. But even with over-marketing like that, I still wasn't entirely interested in seeing it. Now let's skip to 2020. I was on a bit of a Shaun the Sheep kick over summer of that year, during which I watched Farmageddon for the first time, and I thought it was fine. Now then, as I've been very fond of Shaun the Sheep growing up, I am, yet again, going to be much more critical than usual. Sorry. As always, I have rewatched both of these movies in preparation for this video, and this will be based around my opinion and nobody else's. Going into this rewatch, I knew going in that Aardman would go above and beyond to ensure this movie kept the charm of the show. And they did just that. I watched this movie with a smile on my face the whole time. So let's start, as always, with the characters. And this is yet another episode where I'm skipping the main characters, because I think we are all aware of who the characters are, right? So the main new character in this movie is a Trumper. I find him to be a very funny villain, especially during the final climax. Next there's Slip. She's basically the typical resident of the city who knows her way around and helps out the main characters in the second act. Let's move on to the story. When Shaun and the rest of the flock try to have a day off, their attempt culminates in the farmer accidentally being sent to the city. And when Shaun realises he can't do shit, he sets off to the big city to find him, only for the rest of the flock to follow him, and from there, mayhem in the city ensues. Let's move on to the best thing this movie did for me, and it's something Aardman does best: humour. That restaurant scene had me in stitches, man, and I love that they kept the iconic part from the intro. I also love how the big city is portrayed. As someone who's been to many UK cities myself, I can safely say that Aardman nailed the look and feel of a modern UK city. The only thing I didn't really like about this movie was the scene where Shaun is in the slammer. Kinda dragged. But at least it gave us this hilarity. With all that said, this is definitely a movie I'd say is worth your time. In other words, I wholeheartedly recommend this one. I'll admit, I didn't have high hopes for this movie. I mean, aliens? Really?
Off to hang myself, horse and left!
But then I rewatched it and I enjoyed it. This is definitely a fantastic movie. So this movie's main new character is Lula. She was a really sweet, funny and sometimes sympathetic character. My favourite scene with her is hands down that scene in the supermarket where she guzzles 3 food-coloured cokes in one go and... well...
This is a certified hood classic.
Yo, what's up?
Then there's Agent Red, who is actually a somewhat sympathetic villain. I totally understood her motives in the second act. As for the hazmats, they are literally the funniest aspect of the whole movie. Now time for the story. Well, there's like 3 different plots in this one. There's a plot about trying to get Lular home, Agent Red wanting to prove aliens do exist by capturing Lular, and the farmer wanting to capitalise on how UFO crazy Mussingham has suddenly become. And for the most part, all 3 plots are well balanced. Best thing about this movie is hands down the humour, which is understandable. Have a nice day. I also absolutely loved that scene where Lular reunites with her parents. That scene hits so hard, man. And hey, Top Gear! I really don't think there are any major negatives in this movie. The only one I can think of is Wallace and Gromit's TV cameo at the start. That was just borderline confusing. I mean, Shaun's show is a Wallace and Gromit spin-off, right? As in, his show takes place in the Wallace and Gromit universe. And then you see a grand day out on this TV screen in the Shaun the Sheep movie, and it poses some unanswerable questions. Do the Wallace and Gromit shorts exist within the Wallace and Gromit universe? Does Wallace and Gromit have the franchise Wallace and Gromit inside it? Or is this a different show in the universe that just has actors portraying real people and they look like Wallace and Gromit because actors portraying real people in this Wallace and Gromit short just look like Wallace and Gromit? Hey, if these shorts exist within the universe, then does that mean that Shaun's show and movies exist inside? Sorry for reading too much into that, but I think you roughly catch my drift. Despite that rabbit hole of questions, I really enjoyed this one. I also recommend it. Okay, now time to conclude with my final views on these movies. Shaun the Sheep Movie, excellent. Farmageddon, fantastic. Now these movies solidified one thing. Shaun ain't losing his charm anytime soon. These movies are perfect examples of how Aardman can take their existing franchises to the next level when it comes to movies. You know, rewatching these movies has actually made me want to talk about more Aardman related franchises on this channel. That's still a proposed idea at this point in time, but sound off in the comments if you'd like to see more Aardman related videos on this channel.